Mike, a mechanic barely making ends meet, noticed a small boy outside his garage, staring down at his broken wheelchair, tears rolling down his cheeks. Without a second thought, Mike knelt beside him. "I'll fix it," he promised, knowing he wouldn't ask for a dime. The boy's mother gasped, clearly moved by his generosity. Days later, as Mike was wiping grease from his hands, a deafening roar filled the sky. A private jet landed nearby, and what unfolded next left everyone utterly stunned. Mike wiped his hands on his already stained work overalls, his gaze fixed on the young boy struggling just outside his garage. The wheelchair's front wheel was completely mangled, making it impossible for the child to move. His mother stood beside him, looking exhausted and helpless. Mike had seen plenty of hardship, but something about the way the boy gripped the armrest, his small face tight with frustration, resonated deep inside him. He stepped outside, kneeling beside the boy. "Hey, buddy, looks like you hit a snag." The child looked up, his big eyes a mix of hope and uncertainty. "It broke. I was just trying to go down the sidewalk. And he sniffed, glancing at his mother, as if unsure whether to say more. Mike turned to her. "Let me take a look at it." "No charge." The mother's eyes widened. "Are you sure?" "I don't have much." He held up a hand gently. "I insist." Lifting the wheelchair carefully, Mike rolled it into his garage and inspected the damage. The front wheel assembly was completely bent, the frame was out of alignment, and the right brake barely functioned. This wasn't going to be a quick fix. It would require parts, labor, and time resources Mike couldn't easily afford to give away. His small auto repair shop was already struggling, bills were piling up, and work had been slow. But none of that seemed to matter as he looked at the child, now perched on a stool, watching him work with a blend of fascination and excitement. Mike worked late into the evening, fabricating a replacement part from an old bicycle frame he had salvaged. The mother checked the time on her phone repeatedly, looking anxious, but Mike reassured her. "This isn't just about fixing a wheelchair," he said, tightening the last bolt. "It's about giving him back the freedom to move." When he rolled the repaired wheelchair back out, the little boy gasped. Mike hadn't just fixed it, he'd improved it. The wheels felt sturdier, the brakes worked perfectly, and he had even adjusted the seat for better comfort. The boy hesitated for only a moment before gripping the wheels and pushing himself forward. His face lit up with pure joy as he moved effortlessly across the pavement. "It works. It's better than before." His mother's eyes filled with tears. She reached for Mike's hand, squeezing it tightly. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to us." Mike just smiled. "That's what mechanics do. We fix things." As they left, Mike let out a long breath, exhausted but deeply satisfied. He had done the right thing, even if it cost him a day's potential income. He had no inkling, however, that this simple act of kindness had set something truly unimaginable in motion. 2 days later, just as Mike was locking up for the night, a deep, rumbling sound filled the air. It was unlike any engine he'd heard before. He stepped outside, squinting into the twilight sky. Then he saw it, a private jet, gleaming under the setting sun, descending toward the small airstrip just beyond the town's edge. Mike had lived here for years and had never seen anything like it. The jet's wheels touched down smoothly, kicking up a small cloud of dust. He stood frozen as a sleek black sedan pulled up alongside it. His heart began to pound. He didn't know why, but he had a strong feeling that whatever was happening was about to change everything. Mike stood in stunned silence as the private jet came to a smooth halt on the small airstrip outside town. It looked completely out of place. No one in this area owned anything remotely that luxurious. The airstrip was mainly used for crop dusters and the occasional emergency medical flight. But this jet, it was in another league entirely. A sleek black car had pulled up beside it, its tinted windows obscuring the occupants. Mike swallowed hard. He had no reason to feel nervous, yet the entire situation felt monumentally significant. The jet door finally opened, and a set of metal stairs unfolded smoothly. A sharply dressed man in a tailored suit stepped out first, adjusting his tie as he surveyed the surroundings. He turned slightly and gestured toward the jet. A second man appeared older, with silver hair and an air of quiet authority. He descended the stairs purposefully, his polished shoes reflecting the last rays of the setting sun. Mike had no clue who they were, but everything about them radiated wealth and influence. He was about to turn away when the older man's gaze locked onto his. Mike stiffened. The older man spoke briefly to the first man, who immediately nodded and walked toward the black car. Within seconds, the car's engine purred to life and began driving straight toward Mike's garage. His pulse quickened. Why were they coming here? What could they possibly want with him? He took a deep breath and automatically wiped his hands on his greasy overalls as the car pulled up right in front of his shop. The first man stepped out, adjusting his cufflinks before giving Mike a polite nod. "Michael Riley?" Mike hesitated. "Yeah, that's me." The man offered a slight smile. "My name is Thomas Vance. I represent Mr. Arthur Pendleton." He gestured toward the older man, who was now stepping out of the vehicle. "May we have a word?" Mike glanced around, half expecting hidden cameras to appear, thinking it might be some elaborate prank. But there was nothing, just these two imposing men standing before his humble garage. "Sure," Mike said, clearing his throat. "What can I do for you?" Arthur Pendleton stepped forward, his piercing gaze studying Mike. "2 days ago, you repaired a wheelchair for a young boy named Alex. You refused payment and worked late into the night to ensure it was perfect." Mike's stomach tightened. He hadn't thought much about it after they left. It just felt like the right thing to do. "Yeah," he said cautiously. "I did." A small smile touched Pendleton's lips. "That boy's my grandson." Mike's eyes widened. The pieces suddenly clicked into place: the well-dressed men, the private jet, the luxury car. It all made sense now. He had helped someone far more connected than he could have imagined. Pendleton continued, his voice steady. "My daughter, Jessica, told me everything. About how you refused payment, how you used your own resources, how you spent hours making sure his wheelchair wasn't just fixed, but better than before." Mike shrugged, suddenly feeling self-conscious. It was just a wheelchair. He needed it. I couldn't just let him struggle. Pendleton's eyes held a look Mike couldn't quite decipher: respect, gratitude, perhaps something more. "It wasn't just a wheelchair, Mr. Riley. It was his independence. And you gave that back to him." Mike was speechless. He was just a small-town mechanic. He fixed cars, bikes, the occasional lawnmower. This felt immensely bigger than anything he'd ever encountered. Pendleton studied him for another moment before speaking again. "I don't believe in unpaid debts, Mike. I believe in rewarding good people." He glanced at Thomas Vance, who nodded and pulled a sleek black envelope from his inner coat pocket. "I have an offer for you." Mike stared at the envelope, his heart hammering against his ribs. "What kind of offer?" Pendleton smiled slightly. "The kind that will change your life." Mike stared at the envelope in Thomas Vance's hand, his fingers twitching. He had no idea what was inside, but the gravity of the moment felt immense, pressing down on him like a heavy engine block. He was just a mechanic. Nothing in his life had prepared him for standing in front of a billionaire, being offered something that could, as Mr. Pendleton claimed, change his life. Taking a deep breath, he accepted the envelope and carefully opened it. Inside was a single sheet of high-quality paper. His eyes scanned the words, but his brain struggled to process them initially. He blinked, shook his head slightly, and read it again. It was a business proposal, a contract. And at the bottom, a salary figure so large that Mike felt his knees might buckle. This can't be real," he whispered. Pendleton's expression remained composed. "It is very real." Mike swallowed, struggling to find his voice. "You want to hire me?" Pendleton nodded. "Not just hire you. I want to bring you onto my team. You would be heading a state-of-the-art facility focused on designing and repairing high-end mobility equipment. Your skills, your passion, they're being wasted in this small garage." He glanced around at the dim lighting, the outdated tools, the concrete floor stained with years of grease and oil. "You deserve more." Mike's hands trembled as he held the contract. The salary alone was more money than he'd ever dreamed of earning in his lifetime. Then there were the benefits: housing, comprehensive medical coverage, access to resources he never knew existed. His throat felt dry. Why me? Pendleton's expression softened slightly. Because people like you are rare, Mike. You didn't help my grandson for money or recognition. You did it because it was the right thing to do. That kind of integrity, that kind of dedication, it's worth more than any degree or resume. Mike could feel his heart pounding furiously. The offer was overwhelming, almost too big to comprehend. He'd spent his entire life scraping by, barely making ends meet. This garage was his world, the only professional life he knew. Could he really just walk away from it? Pendleton seemed to sense his hesitation. Take your time. Think it over. But know this, if you accept, you will never have to struggle financially again. You will have the resources to truly change lives, just like you did for my grandson. Mike exhaled slowly, his mind racing. Could he leave this town, the only home he'd known? Could he step into a world so vastly different from his own? He looked down at the contract, then back at Pendleton. I need some time. Pendleton nodded. Of course, but I will need an answer soon. Mike watched as the billionaire and his associate turned and walked back to their car. The jet waited on the airstrip, its engines humming softly in the twilight. As the car pulled away, Mike looked down at the contract again. His entire life had been about fixing things: cars, bikes, engines. But now, for the first time ever, he had the chance to fix something even bigger: his own future. Mike barely slept that night. The contract sat on his workbench, the numbers and words swirling in his head every time he closed his eyes. It wasn't just a job offer. It was a complete life overhaul. But the thought of leaving everything behind, stepping into a world so foreign to him, was more terrifying than any complex engine repair. The next morning, he tried to find comfort in his usual routine, hoping the familiar rhythms of the garage would bring clarity. He tightened bolts, checked engine fluids, wrestled with a transmission issue on an old pickup truck. But no matter how hard he tried to focus, his mind kept drifting back to that sleek black envelope. Midway through the afternoon, a familiar sound broke his concentration, the soft electric whir of a wheelchair. Mike turned, and there was little Alex, grinning from ear to ear as he maneuvered toward him with ease. His mother, Jessica, followed closely, a bright smile on her face. "It's perfect," Alex announced, his excitement practically bouncing off the garage walls. "It moves so smoothly, and I barely have to push the controls." Mike knelt beside him, giving the wheels a quick check, making sure everything was still holding up. "That's what I like to hear. No issues at all." Alex shook his head emphatically. "None. You're the best mechanic ever." Mike chuckled, but Jessica's expression turned serious. She stepped closer, lowering her voice slightly. "I heard about the offer, Mike." He tensed. News traveled fast in a small town. He wasn't entirely surprised, but it still caught him off guard. "Yeah, I'm still thinking it over." Jessica sighed softly. "Mike, I know you love this garage. I know it's your life. But do you realize what this opportunity means? You could help so many people. There are kids like Alex everywhere, struggling with mobility, needing someone with your skills and your heart." Mike looked at the boy, his own heart clenching. He hadn't really thought about it that way. Fixing Alex's wheelchair had felt like a simple, one-off act of kindness. But what if he could do that on a much larger scale? Jessica continued, "You've spent your life helping others here, quietly fixing things. But this is your chance to do it in a way that truly changes lives on a bigger stage." Mike swallowed hard. He'd always been the guy working behind the scenes, making things right. The idea of stepping into a bigger role, one with significant responsibility and visibility, felt daunting. Before he could respond, Alex reached out and grabbed his hand, his small fingers squeezing tightly. "If you go, will you still fix my chair if it ever breaks again?" Mike felt a lump form in his throat. He nodded, meeting the boy's earnest gaze. "Of course, buddy. Always." Alex beamed. "Then I think you should go." Mike exhaled slowly, the weight of the decision pressing down harder than ever. He had been searching for clarity, for a sign. And maybe, just maybe, it had just found him. Mike stood in his garage long after Alex and Jessica had left, staring at the contract still lying on his workbench. His hand hovered over the signature line, but he couldn't quite bring himself to sign it. The decision felt monumental, heavier than any engine block he'd ever lifted. He had poured his life into this garage, into every repair, helping the people of his town whenever they needed it. Leaving it all felt like abandoning a core part of who he was. As he paced, restless, the crunch of gravel outside broke the silence. He turned just as a sleek black sedan pulled up. The driver, wearing a crisp suit and dark sunglasses, stepped out. Mike recognized him immediately. It was Thomas Vance, Mr. Pendleton's associate. Vance approached with a confident stride, extending his hand. "Michael, I hope you've had sufficient time to consider Mr. Pendleton's offer." Mike shook his hand but hesitated. "I have, but I'm still not sure I'm the right person for this." Vance studied him for a moment, then gestured toward the car. "Take a ride with me. There's something I'd like you to see." Mike frowned but nodded, his curiosity piqued. He climbed into the luxurious passenger seat, and they drove out of town in silence, the landscape blurring past. Finally, they turned onto a long, private road leading to a massive, modern facility. Mike's eyes widened as he took in the scale of the place. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Vance parked the car and led him inside. A hum of quiet activity filled the large, bright space. Engineers and technicians worked diligently on various mobility devices, advanced wheelchairs, sophisticated prosthetic limbs, and other high-tech equipment designed to assist people with disabilities. Mike watched, captivated, as they tested different prototypes, each more innovative than the last. "This is what we do here, Mike," Vance said, his voice steady. "And we need someone like you. Someone who doesn't just see the mechanics, but cares deeply about the people who rely on this equipment. Your work with Alex demonstrated that quality. It's why Mr. Pendleton chose you." Mike swallowed hard, a mix of awe and apprehension swirling within him. He had always believed his work mattered, but seeing the potential to impact so many lives on such a profound level made everything feel different, bigger. He turned to Vance, his heart pounding. What happens if I say yes?" Vance smiled. "Then your life changes forever, and you get to help change countless others." Mike exhaled slowly, his gaze sweeping across the impressive facility, the dedicated people inside, and a future that suddenly seemed incredibly clear. For the first time since receiving the offer, he knew exactly what he had to do. Mike stood at the entrance of the state-of-the-art facility, hands resting on his hips, taking it all in. The decision was made. He had accepted Arthur Pendleton's offer. A new life, a renewed sense of purpose, a chance to make a difference far beyond the confines of the small garage that had been his world for so long. Inside, engineers and technicians worked with quiet focus, assembling custom wheelchairs, crafting advanced prosthetic limbs, and refining mobility devices designed to enhance people's lives. Mike recognized the passion in their eyes. It was the same dedication he'd always felt when fixing a car or a piece of equipment for someone in need back home. He took a deep breath, letting the reality of his new beginning sink in. Thomas Vance approached him, handing him an official ID badge with his name and photo. "Welcome to the team, Mike. Mr. Pendleton is very pleased. We've been looking for someone with your unique blend of skill and empathy." Mike turned the badge over in his hand, feeling its symbolic weight. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was part of something much larger now. The following weeks passed in a whirlwind. Mike immersed himself in the work, rapidly learning new techniques, experimenting with cutting-edge technology, and contributing his practical insights to help design better, more user-friendly mobility solutions. He had never felt so challenged, yet so profoundly fulfilled. Every day brought interactions with people whose lives were being tangibly improved by the work happening within those walls. And every day he thought about Alex and Jessica, the catalyst for this incredible journey. Then, one morning, as Mike walked into the main workshop, he noticed a familiar figure sitting proudly in a brand-new, customized wheelchair near the reception area. It was Alex. The boy's eyes lit up the moment he saw Mike. Jessica stood beside him, wiping a tear from her cheek. "We wanted to surprise you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Mr. Pendleton arranged for this to be built just for him. It's state-of-the-art. He can move so much more easily now, and it's all thanks to you, Mike. Your kindness started all of this. Mike knelt beside Alex, examining the sleek, ergonomic design of the wheelchair. What does it feel, buddy? Alex grinned widely. Like I can go anywhere. Mike felt a warmth spread through his chest. This was why he had said yes. This was why he had taken the leap of faith. Jessica reached in her purse and pulled out a small envelope. And there's one more thing. Alex and I wanted to do something for you. Mike hesitated for a second before accepting the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Alex, penned in a child's careful script. He read the words slowly, a lump forming in his throat. Dear Mike, thank you for fixing my old wheelchair. But thank you more for believing in me and helping me. You didn't just fix something broken, you changed my life. Your friend, Alex. Mike closed his eyes for a brief moment, absorbing the weight and sincerity of the words. Then, he opened them and smiled warmly at Alex, ruffling his hair gently. No, buddy, he said softly. You changed mine,